So first, can you tell me your name, where you're from, and your age?
Sure. My name is Yona. I'm 18 years old and I live in Haifa. So I'm a member of the Mesarvot network. Mesarvot means we refuse in Hebrew, and it's a feminist anti-militarist network of conscientious objectors. Last week we went to protest in front of the military jail, Kele 10, prison 10 I suppose, in support of two public conscientious objectors and a third anonymous one. Itamar Greenberg, who has been sentenced for 195 days by now, and Neta Alanis-Larbel, who has been sentenced to over 30.
I am an Israeli genocide, occupation and oppression refusenik. So far I have served 150 days in prison, and tomorrow I will return for another term of imprisonment. Last week, the military's unfitting committee decided to send me back to prison after I made it clear to them that my fundamental demand is the immediate cessation of the destruction of human life in Gaza. As I wrote in my refusal statement, you cannot build just society on the barrel of guns. I returned to prison with my head held high. My conscience is stronger than the iron that locks me away. Stand up, resist. Truth will win.
We as activists, we protest against the war and for conscientious objection. On the day of the refusal, when they are in jail, we protest in front of the military jail. It's something that from what I heard, really helps for that whole process in feeling that you're not alone. So it's really my political home. It's the people that I do most of my activism with. Well, I was raised in like a center-left Zionist household, so I did grow up on like the values that everyone is equal and no one should be hated for the background, and that like the word occupation, it wasn't taboo in my house either. Like it was something that was talked about. And I remember like when I was in second grade, I was sent to like a Jewish Arab like summer school, and generally I also grew up in the Galilee, which is a Palestinian majority region. So even though my town itself is like almost 100% Jewish, it's still in my daily life, ever since I was a child, I did see Arabs, Palestinians of all religions and backgrounds, and it's something that I think made me, I guess, humanize, the other side, quote unquote, from a young age. I was also always a bit of an activist. Through my parents, like in 2011 when I was 5, there were the big social protests, and they took me to like the big 1 million man protest. I have very vivid memories like from there on my father's shoulders. By 2023, when the big anti-judicial overall protest came, I already went by myself to the protest, and immediately when I started going, I already joined with the anti-occupation bloc. Because I was able to immediately make the connection between backsliding of democracy within the Green Line to the undemocratic rule in the territories. I remember for a while there were like people waving Palestinian flags, and I said, I wouldn't do that, but I think people should have the right to. And I saw my friend from the anti-occupation bloc, was around my age. I saw him like just get completely like tackled by cops for waving a Palestinian flag. And I think it was sort of that moment where I realized like that's my place to be, sort of like that's the sort of activism I believe in, and the things I want to stand on. I remember the assassination of Shireen Abu Akleh was also really like a really big eye-opener for me, because I remember in 2021 when the war in Gaza was happening, I said stuff like, I oppose the war, I oppose the bombings, but I believe the idea of, they say there's Hamas cells within certain buildings or whatever. Like I believe that, and I remember like seeing how clearly they lied in the murder of Shireen. Also that the fact that she was a journalist, and I was already like getting interested in doing journalism around that time. That really, I think, opened my eyes that the state just lies, and it was like a really a break of trust with like what the state does. There was a letter of a refusal declaration that said, "Oh, we're unwilling to serve a dictatorship either within the Green Line or beyond the Green Line." When I sort of became involved in doing activism around that refusal letter, and we had like a big event where we unveiled the letter at like a school, like we occupied the school on like the first day of the school year, and I remember being there and sort of feeling a sense of like empowerment in specifically refusal activism, because like you get like through your whole life you get told that you need to serve, and that's what everyone does, and that it's a legal obligation and a social obligation, and there's something in directly declaring that you refuse to do that is very empowering. And then the war started. Like I could see what led to the horrible massacre on October 7th, and how things could have been different, and it only further like showed me that like military action was not the path, and of course unsurprisingly Israel's response to the massacre, which has been just a genocide, it's just further showed me that I really do not want anything to do with the army or that party. And it was around then that I decided that I want to refuse myself. I also got to talk to a lot of people who were going to refuse or already refused, and sort of demystified how scary the idea of maybe going to jail was, or other aspects of refusal. But I still didn't know if I was going to publicly refuse or maybe try to get an exemption somehow.
There's different ways to refuse. There's different grounds. There's medical, like mental health refusal, where you kind of make the case that you're unfit to serve on a mental health basis, and it's relatively easy to do that if you know what you're doing and you have the right support networks, and a lot of people do that. And so in those cases they get off relatively scot-free. They might do like it's called national service, where they help in other ways, where they volunteer in other ways. Then there's refusing on grounds of being a pacifist. This is very hard to prove. They will ask you about your like allegiance and kind of what do you stand for. Are you like specifically against doing harm to Palestinians, or like a pacifist more broadly, like with regards to like all of humanity, or all these like very weird and like intrusive questions about your perspective on things. And in most cases they will not accept your appeal, and then in that case you'll often get sent to jail. If you're not a pacifist and you're refusing on a moral ground, specifically against the issue of the occupation and all these things, in many cases you will be sent to jail. You will be sentenced to basically 4 weeks, and then after 4 weeks you're released. You will be called to serve again, and then you're given the choice whether you do refuse, on what ground. You'll be sentenced to 4 weeks again, and then they just kind of stretch that along for however long they want. There's no actual like cutoff date for that. It can be as little as like a couple weeks, or as long as, I think the longest been like a year maybe. The people that go to jail are those that make like as like a public statement. They are kind of made an example of, so the army can kind of show people that you don't want to do that.
Hi, I'm Vita. I'm from Israel, Haifa, and I immigrated to Israel from Russia. And when I made repatriation in the airport, they told me that I need to go to the army. So I was 18, and my first day in Israel, I'm going to the army, to the like recruitment office. I was a military police in the checkpoints. You check documents in border of Israel and Palestine, in the West Bank.
Were you aware much about the situation in the West Bank when you had started?
Not didn't know so much. For me, when I started, because I came out from outside. I didn't grow up in Israel. I didn't learn it here in school. So I checked this official websites. What does mean my professional? What does it mean? So when I checked this, okay, this sounds like a border between two countries. It's okay. So like I don't know, German and France. So them have a border, and it's okay to check check documents and check luggage and check security. I finished army like 5 years ago. In the army, I started to think different. I started thinking this, okay, I started learning about what is occupation, what is apartheid, and events and in West Bank, and what is mean Palestinian. Now, in one side, I understanding how things works because of my position in army, because I literally saw this in between. I literally was in Czech. I literally meet Palestinian peoples. You know, a lot of people in the army, not in the army, a lot of people in Israel didn't meet Palestinian people. Them don't know how Palestinian people looks. So you have a lot of stigmas, stereotypes. Sorry, and yes, it didn't work. War starts, and when they called me to reserve the service, I was very stressful and cried and stressful. But I refused with my medical condition. And on one side, I have a choice, like when you say to army, okay, I refused, and you go to the jail. And other side, I send my medical papers. It's much easy way, and it's true. I developed an anxiety in the army and developed this to 5 years after all.
So my name's Ty Gorin, currently living in Haifa. So growing up overseas, my parents never really spoke about these things. I was vaguely aware that army service is something that kids my age do and are supposed to do. My family is very much of like a military background. It's like a lineage of like officers that have taken part in all sorts of very impressive military feats. And so this is just something that was kind of born into it, I guess. And so until I enlisted, I'd never really thought about any of the questions surrounding that. I mean, where does your allegiance lie? With people, or with a nation, or a state, or with what? And these are questions that I don't think I really knew how to answer until after I left the army. I'm not ashamed or regretful that I served, because I think at that point I was just kind of unfamiliar with forging my own path. And I don't think I would have been here. I don't think there would have been a way for me to gain the understanding that I did. I don't think my service was good for anything. I don't think it helped anyone. I don't think I protected anybody's interests except for the interests of the status quo. I don't think I protected my family by being where I was, or that's the case with pretty much everything to do with our society. And I don't think there's much you can do in our society that doesn't benefit the status quo unless you actively resist it. And at that position where I was, I don't think I knew how to resist. And so nowadays I'm very transparent about my background when I speak to people. It's part of what forged my understanding of this reality, and it's what led me on this path. I have Palestinian friends who are, I mean, I'm sure they're not happy that I served, but like they're very understanding about it. It's just how I've come to be where I am, and I think it's not helpful to kind of linger on that. I really think it matters what we do now and how we like forge a path forward. I was in Germany recently in this program, and if I can hang out with Germans and speak to them, knowing that my family was either persecuted by or escaped persecution by or was killed by their grandparents, I don't think it matters as long as we're both aware of what's happened in the past, and we both agree that it's not helpful to maybe reproduce that. And with regards to the Refuseniks that we supported, I think it's incredibly brave at that age to make such a decision. There's a heavy social cost to it, and there's a very strong ideological, moral stance behind that action that I think it's very hard for anybody at that age to make. I think their struggle is just, and I think it's important to have people like them serve as an example to others in society that it's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible to do something, to stand for what you believe in.
One person can do much changes, because it's like examples. It's like, okay, you have another way, you have another choice. When I was in the army, I didn't knew that I have a choice. When I was younger, I thought if you don't serve in the army, so you're like outcast, so you're not in society. And I was very, very afraid of this. This is a reason I respect people that do it in publicity wave, because they show to other people, to other children. Yes, I call them children because it's very youngest people. You literally have a choice.
For me, it's a community more than anything else. Given that the people I grew up with are not particularly supportive of this, it's really what gives me the ability to do it. Just knowing that there are people that I have with me in this, and and also having an example of people that went through this process and came out fine from the other exit. And the network itself provides a lot of support, from media training and a platform to legal support, and also parental support. The main fear is the uncertainness of everything. I still don't know when exactly I'm going to refuse, if it's going to be by the end of the year or sometimes in the middle of the year. And of course, like I said, I don't know exactly what will be done with me. But I'll probably be at the very least arrested at the draft office and then maybe sent to jail, maybe not, depending on how much they want to deal with me. I'm not that scared of it, at least not of the legal element. Socially, the consequences are, for me at least, more difficult. My parents are not very supportive of my decision. It's what we fight about every time I return home up north. And I had people from my class that have decided not to keep contact with me because of my decision to refuse. But I think just having friends who I do activism with, who went through this or went through similar things and are with me in this, is just what really helps me cope with that thing, because I have my community. It's a really powerful thing.